All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pitch Perfect. This is Pitch Perfect 1 for Micro Pitch 1 2026. And this is year 14. Hard to believe that this is year 14 of us doing Start Peninsula. It is the longest running pitch event platform in Hampton Roads. We have a lot of success stories that have resulted. One of which we had our first exit a couple of months ago with Occasion Genius. And then, geez, I think I just saw that Answers Now, they're a prior winner. I think they're getting ready to raise like 40 million in their next round. So, I mean, it's just there's a lot. This is the on-ramp to entrepreneurship for the region, and we do things very intentional. We'll get into some of this, but really, this is the place to validate an idea. So before anybody quits a job, before anyone maxes out credit cards, or takes out a second mortgage on a home, be like, hey, let's validate that the idea is worth pursuing first. At the same time, remember, when you participate in the micro pitch, is the judges, that is but three opinions. And they are not the end all be all. And more than anything, they want to see you succeed. Um, we tell people that the only people that are the real losers are those that tuck their tail between their legs after the first time pitching, didn't hear what they want to hear, and never to be seen again. Those are the only ones that really miss out. The folks that take the lessons learned, they come back, they pitch again, whether if it's the next micro pitch event or the next year or the year after that. Those are the ones that with the grit and determinations, those are the ones that ultimately win. So this is the first event of 2026. Today we're going to talk about the pitch, what how everything is structured. We'll go over the event itself. Um, seven out of the 10 go through pitch. 7 of the 10 that advance throughout the series of events, micro pitches, they advance to the championship round. 2 of the 3 people that go on to win, they have gone through Pitch Perfect. So to start out, everyone is good enough to be here. No one is too good. Everyone checked their ego at the door when they were let in. This is a safe spot. This is designed for people that have never pitched before, or you've pitched 1,000 times. If you do not have a pitch that is already set and ready to go, we encourage you to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, start jotting down some notes, just answering simple questions to the things that we're going to talk about. And what we're going to do is we're just going to outline what the pitch looks like and identify how you frame 3 minutes for a pitch. I am going to share my screen and
And I'm really good at compelling people to give it a try at the end. So
and
people
with that, to Gary's point, even if this is reading a piece off of your piece of paper in terms of this is what I wrote down, just because really one of the most interesting things is that we'll set the timer, we'll let people talk, and we'll ask them, how long do you think you pitched for? And they a lot of times are like, 2.5 minutes. They're like, no, it was 7, it was 10. They have no idea how fast 3 minutes goes. And you'll learn during this, there is a lot of information that you need to pack into 3 minutes. So the way that the agenda is going to work tonight is we're going to talk about the elements of the pitch. And then if you have any questions, you can ask those questions and then that give you the opportunity to practice your pitch, get some feedback. We learn from one another. And again, this is a safe place where everybody can feel comfortable and there is no judgment. We are recording this. We will send the recording back out to everyone. We will not, the practice pitches, we will not include in the recording that goes back out. Again, this is a safe place. If you want a copy of your recording that you practice with the feedback, we're more than happy to send that to you, but really want to make sure that everyone feels safe. So that said, for the micro pitch, it is a 3-minute pitch. So we're going to put 3 minutes on the clock. And then a lot of people, they don't really know what to do or what to expect from there. So let's just break
Hey,
down what
Tim,
three minutes looks like. Yes, Gary.
should we say who you are and who I am so
Oh
that
yeah, I
people
should.
know? Yeah.
Here we are. Like I tell
Or we could have
everyone, like
Graham introduce us.
this is our attention getter. And now that I have everyone's attention, now I'll talk about who we are.
Nice.
Um, so I am Tim Ryan. I am the executive director of Innovate Hampshire Roads. I have been involved in the startup space for 14, 15 years. Been a long time. I've worked with lots and lots of founders. So helping people start their business, validate their business, get markets to product, transition over to also into the angel investing side. So my benefit really is I can help the founder get started. And I know from an investor standpoint, I know what I am looking for before I write a check. And I also know the pain of a company going to zero and having to tell my wife that a check went to zero, and that's not fun. So I understand a lot of people out there will be more than happy to give you their advice, but until they know the pain of or have the experience, then take that take that advice for what it is. But I know both ends of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. So uh, worked with many founders, and I'm here to help. That said, the other part, so handle the business side of the pitch. Gary, who co-hosts this with me, takes care of the performance side. Gary, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Gary Plagg. You can see me on the screen. And so I have a communication consulting business that I started in 1998. And it's really a lot about helping people to get up and not be afraid to tell their story. And the same rules kind of apply here in this online world as well. So it's more opportunities. Back when I started my business, I came out of a 20-year IT career and started this business, and there was no help. So it was the wild, wild west, and you just did the best you could and struggled and hoped that you'd get somewhere. And hope is a terrible strategy. But now we have the opportunity with things like this program to be able to help people. I met Tim when I moved to Williamsburg in 2014, 15, and went to the what then was the launch pad, which Tim was the director of that. It was over in Newtown in Williamsburg, and we started doing these. These were live before, and so that's how I'm attached to Tim. Is we've just been doing these for a long time, and I just enjoy helping as well. I'm on the verge of retired, so I don't necessarily have clients too often, but this is a fun give back because the community gave me a lot once I got started and it became more alive and vibrant. Then the entrepreneurial community helped me as well. So it's kind of my give back. So I'm uh, I'm direct and honest, but not unkind. So that's uh, how you can use me best. And as Tim says, it'll be from the performance side. It'll be more what you look and sound like and some strategies for getting your idea to stick and how to get people to pay attention to you when you're the ninth pitcher out of 12. So hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Now we will put 3 minutes on the clock and break that down, and this will be the outline of your pitch. And we're going to break everything down further, but again, this is the outline. So start with an attention getter. That could be a stat, it could be a quote, it could be just something that is going to grab that person's attention. Think 10 seconds for that. As something to remind you all, this is not exact science. You can borrow time from one area and add it to another, but this is just a guideline, just to demonstrate what this looks like. Then you're going to identify what the problem or the opportunity is. 50 seconds. So if you don't have a pitch prepared, you can simply write on your piece of paper, the problem that I am solving is, and just start writing down what that is. And then you'll talk 50 seconds about that. Once you identify the problem, you'll talk about the solution. 50 seconds there. At that point, everyone has your attention, or you have everyone's attention. Get into your name, a company one-liner, how you want to be remembered. My name is Tim Ryan. I am the Executive Director of Innovate Hampton Roads, where we celebrate entrepreneurship and innovation across Hampton Roads. Just a quick one-liner how you want everyone to remember you by. Everyone's going to remember you one way or the other. We want you to give them a reason to remember you as opposed to the opposite. Next, you're going to talk about your target market. Who are you marketing this to? 50 seconds there. You have a 10-second closing. That could be your company one-liner again. But when you total all that up, that is your 3 minutes. We have a rubric that goes to the judges. And interestingly enough, that rubric is the problem, the solution, the target market, and your pitch performance. So you're going to use this basic outline for everything from your pitches from here on forward. When you do advance, we're confident that you will advance to the championship round. We'll add some things, like what is your revenue model, those types of questions in later on down the line. But we just want to dip your toe in the water because this is an idea validation platform for you. A lot of times people don't have their first customer. It is just an idea. They're not generating any revenue yet. You can be, and if you are, that is great. But that's why we start with how we do with just the problem, solution, and the market. We want you to start thinking about this. Back in the day, this used to be a weekend competition. And so someone would pitch on Friday night. If they made the cut, they would pitch again on Sunday night. And then the program was done for an entire year. Now, today, you pitch on February 11th, is when the micro pitch date is. And then the championship pitch is in November. So what got you to November is not going to be what allows you to win. You're going to have to show some sort of progress. You're going to have worked on that business for a series of months to show that you're really committed to this. So that was just some of our continuous improvement on the program. We want to continue that people are, or we want to ensure that people are committed to the business. We don't want people to win $5,000 over one weekend and they decide to do repair work on their car and then never work on their business again. So we want to make sure that you're in this for the long haul. But that is what that rubric looks like. The judges are scoring that. That is what they're listening for. And now we're going to break everything down in a little bit more detail. Additionally, what we're working you to work towards is the flywheel. And this is really the secret sauce of the feedback that I get from a lot of people. They're quick to say that this region does not have a lot of investment opportunity. And the reason is that they don't have the flywheel that they need to be working for. And you need these three things. So as you are working towards your business, you need to have a product. So what is that? You need to have a team and you need to have customers. If you have those three things, chances are a potential investor is going to listen to you. If you're missing one of those things, or if you're missing two of those things, or all three of those things, getting a meeting is going to be extremely difficult. If you go to an investor and you say, hey, I've got this idea, but I don't have a team and I don't have any customers, then like the risk is just too great. But if you have two of those three things, or if you have all three of those things and you're working towards it, then you have a company that's going to grow. With that, you just have an idea. And the whole premise behind this is that you have a team that's building a great product. That great product is delighting customers. Those customers are then generating revenue, and you're improving that product. You're improving the team, which is delighting more customers, generating more revenue. So this flywheel, this continues to turn. That is what we want you to be working towards. It's just a little added bonus slide. This is one of the things that I don't like to hear people talking badly about this region. There's plenty of money if you just got to be identifying those three things. All right, the problem. That first 50 seconds, some things to consider here. It is 50 seconds is what our guideline is. Do not go long. People that have not practiced before, they will. Gary and I have done this so many times that like we just have this internal clock. We know what 50 seconds feels like. And like the people that haven't practiced, they will talk about this for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then guess what? The 3 minutes is over. We unfortunately have to cut them off, and they didn't talk about the solution. They didn't talk about who their market is. And then when the judges have to evaluate on the rubric, they can't score them on that. And then also as a result, the performance is not good. So 50 seconds, that's why we're saying write this down, get a feel for what 50 seconds is like. People are visual learners, and this is a big reason why Gary is here. We want you to tell a story. I can remember pitches from so many years ago because it tells that story. So, what I mean by telling a story, I want you to think about who is your perfect customer. Talk about the journey that you want to take them on. This is the pain that they feel. There was no solution that they could find until they found you, and then you solved that pain point and they lived happily ever after. But guess what? That's not just them alone. There's a million, 2 million, a billion other people that have the same problem that this person had. And these are the people that I'm marketing to. But when you, whatever that specific instance is, and you tell that story, and then the people that your listeners are visually putting themselves in that situation, that is going to resonate with them. And it even can get you, you can go really scientific with this in terms of it turns off the crocodile brain. People are less threatened. It has a story arc. Every movie that we have is some sort of story arc. Here's the villain. Here's the big battle. The good person wins. They live happily ever after. The same kind of thing. We're visual learners, so think about what that story is. And while you're doing that, demonstrate the size of the problem. I mean, we just want to make sure, especially, not every business that participates in this necessarily has to be a venture backable business or raise money from investors. But you're going to, even if you are looking to go to a bank, you want to make sure that you're solving a problem that is large enough that that it is worth solving. If it's a one of one problem, it's going to be really, really difficult. So make sure that you have an understanding and demonstrate what that size is. Gary, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I think the part about the story is that when, like, even when I meet people at a business mixer or something, and they ask what I do, and I tell them things that help them to feel this discomfort that I help people mitigate. And if you can get people to feel that, as Tim's saying, whatever that pain is, without physically hurting them, but as your description goes, how do they feel about this thing? Sometimes it's a heart tug. It's we've seen many pitches where the heart tug is the winner because given everything else was the same, the emotional heart tug was the thing that the judges and even other people in the audience really were attracted to. So we'll help you make the story compelling so that the listener has some sense of feeling that. That's all I'd add.
Yeah, and the whole adage, story sell, numbers tell. And when you're telling that story, people are listening. But if you just got in there and it was just a very dry pitch and you just start spewing out numbers, then when we do these in rapid succession, pitch after pitch after pitch, we go through all 10 pitches. I mean, like the judges, I mean, it's just every stir thing starts to run into one another. So again, like that's where the story aspect, you're going to stand out. You're going to be remembered, and you're going to be remembered a lot longer than just the course of that evening.
Yep.
We send this out as a replay to everyone. Um, So those that are watching the replay, send something back to start@startpeninsula.com. Pitching to win is the key phrase, just to give you credit that you've watched this. Some of you that are here, you went ahead and you purchased your pitch ticket. If you attend Pitch Perfect, then pitch your business. We will refund the $50 deposit. We just want to make sure that everybody shows up that says they're going to show up. We sell out every single one of these. If this was free, we would sell out even faster, and then people would no show while we had people on the wait list. So this is just to have a little bit of skin in the game. This is not a revenue generator for us. We're not trying to make money. We just want you to show up. So pitching to win, send that to me or start at startpeninsula.com. We'll give you credit for being here. We're good to go.
Can I comment on that really quick, Tim? I didn't know that was
Yeah.
going to be the password this time. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's
Mo-
Piccadilly
I,
elephants fly, but
well, I
this
thought
time,
I must ask you a question, Gary.
yes, mustache me. Yes. So my thought on pitching to win, this is something that I see people doing in most competitions we'll say many people. Many people go in trying not to lose. And if you go in trying not to lose, you're probably gonna lose. But if you go in to win and you play the game psychologically differently when you go in to win. So I would encourage you all go in to win. Don't go in hoping that you're going to do okay. Go in saying, I am what I am. It is what it is. And I've practiced and I'm ready and I'm eager to tell people my story. So just an attitude adjustment, which pitching to win fit into. I thought I should say that.
Thanks, Gary. All right, we're going to shift focus into the solution. So touching on the idea and the innovation about the product, some things to consider there is that the audience doesn't know you. So like I guess the easiest way to describe this is like if you pitch this to someone in elementary school or your mom or your dad or just and they don't understand it, you need to explain it in more detail. The audience doesn't know you, and you can't assume that the judges are going to know you either. And one of the most common things feedback that we get from the judges is like, I just didn't get it, and like, and so when they're left questioning, like I just don't understand. Yeah, those are the things when you're practicing. We'll get into this, but like anytime you see someone, hey, do you got 3 minutes? Let me run something past you. So the audience doesn't know you. Speaking of the audience is much more than the three judges. We have people that are in attendance. You all make up the part of the cohort of 2026. So you learn from one another, you share, you help one another succeed. But we have a group of investors that typically watch each of these micro pitches, and they'll ask for introductions to the founders. Um, whether there's interest there or they know somebody, they want to be a potential customer, they have advice, they came from that industry, whatever the case is, that secondary audience is extremely beneficial. So don't lose sight on that either. So again, I'm stressing this again. Is the problem big enough? So like really, without getting too technical, we want to demonstrate how big the problem is, but we don't want to do what is called a top-down total addressable market. If you're in the real estate industry, don't just Google, what is the size of the real estate market in the United States? It's going to come back with some crazy number that's like $30 trillion or something, and if you say that your market is $30 trillion, and then you've lost credibility with the judges and with the audience. We want you to look at what's called bottoms up TAM, total addressable market, narrow that down. So instead of real estate, the total real estate market, you want to look at, all right, I want to focus on single family homes that is in this particular zip code, that is this particular square footage that has this many bedrooms. And then when you narrow that down, now you realize that your market might be 10 million as opposed to that giant number. And then as you expand, then your total addressable market will get larger and larger and larger. But we just want you to just really think focused. And we want you to be focused from that standpoint. Needs to be big enough. What we're saying is that we're just not looking for someone to, that is selling, trumpet oil or something like that, where there's just not a big market. Brody, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so it's more of a kind of trickled down sub market of like whatever the bigger problem is.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Part of the solution, how are you different? How are you better? And what I mean by this is like, Yeah, you want to understand who your competition is, but we want you to keep that focus on you. This is how we do this. So, like using Uber for an example, like when they first started, they had a compelling story. You imagine yourself, you're at a basketball game, you and your buddy, you had too much to drink, you weren't fit to drive. There was the problem set. What if you were able to grab your cell phone, hit a button on your phone, and then a car was able to pick you up? Yeah, now we're talking about the solution. You feel that sigh of relief, but when you think about how are you different, like you're able to use your phone. You didn't have to worry about knowing a taxi's phone number. You didn't know about have to worry about carrying cash. You did not have to worry about a tip. You didn't have to worry about safety, cleanliness. You knew how far away the car was. You knew all of those things. Those are highlighting how they do things better, how they are different than what the status quo is. And I want you to think and gear your solution to be 10x better, 10 times better than what the current status quo is. Because if you want to change a customer's behavior, you need to be 10 times better than what that status quo is. If you're not, then your customers are more likely to fall back to their original behavior. So Uber, for example, they were able to show that they're 10 times better because of the things that I had just mentioned. Another thing to think about is why now? Why is now the best opportunity for this solution? And sometimes, like you may not realize this, but being too early sometimes is just as bad as being too late. And, you know, so why is now the time? Like Uber, like they needed the smartphone to be out. They needed to be able to track from a GPS standpoint. They could have been too early. Netflix, they had, they used to back in the day, they mail DVDs to your house that you would get in the mailbox. It wasn't until broadband high-speed internet came out they were able to stream. And that was a big deal when they did that. But why now? Think about why now is the right opportunity. Part of that solution is your team. And this is one that is often overlooked. So some things to consider here. Showcase what your strengths are. How many years of experience do you have? Do you have anything that is protectable from an IP standpoint? Do you have any patents? Do you have any certifications? What are those strengths? Showcase those. Why are you the one that is going to be the one to solve this problem? If you are a second time founder or a third time founder, that is a strength. I will bet on a second time founder or a third time founder if they had failed the first or second time, probably more likely than a first time founder because the things that they learned along the way, I would really hope that they weren't going to make those mistakes again. So use that as a strength. Yeah, I am a second time founder. I learned a lot during my first time. We learned that we were too early, whatever the case is, but leverage your strengths. I know that it's really, really difficult sometimes to brag about yourself, but this is your time. Your team is going to be the one that makes this happen. You bet on the jockey, not on the horse. I mean, that is like a typical investor mindset. You're like, I know no matter what that this founder is going to be the one to solve this problem. So at the beginning of this, before we got started, Graham mentioned dog fooding. Like this is one of these deals. Like I'm creating this because I needed a solution for my own problem, and I use this. So no matter what, since there's no other solution, I have to be the one that solves this problem because I can't go on life without it. I need to be the person to solve it. And so I had mentioned Answers Now. They're getting ready they announced their next raise or they closed their first raise. So the founder, son, autistic, his pitch, he's talking about how he's in Walmart. His child has a meltdown, screaming. He doesn't know what to do. There was no solution for that. So that is how Answers Now was developed. It walks you and guides you through that. So like he's the one to solve that because there was no other solution and and so he was helping himself and helping all the parents and caretakers of those that are around autistic children. Super, super powerful. Another example how stories sell and how he made that turn that pitch into a story. And I think that, gosh, I mean, that might have been Star Peninsula year 2 or 3 that we had. And I still remember the details of that pitch because it was so powerful. Gary,
Uh,
anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to add that sometimes, which you get to with the Answers Now story, but sometimes we have life experiences that really make us prime people to solve the problem, but we're afraid to say it. We don't want to say something about an experience we had or I don't know, some disease we had or some whatever, but it was a challenge that you had that caused you to realize that there wasn't an easy solution, and that's why you did this. So I would say that as long as it can't hurt you from somebody knowing that thing about you, then if you feel like you could use it, use it. I don't mean in a pathetic way. I mean in a way that builds your credibility, establishes your credibility that, oh, this person can do that. So, yeah, I would say that would be the only thing I would add to that.
Thank you, Gary. All right, we're going to touch on the market, the marketability of this. So when you're thinking about your customers, we want you to be able, this is your time to identify your customer. What is that ideal customer profile? Like you need to understand that problem so well. And you need to understand who is experiencing this pain point so well. Like you need to, like this is everything that you say. It's either adding credibility or taking away your credibility. And when you can get in and you can pitch to someone and you know everything about that problem and you know everything about the typical customer profile, like that speaks volumes and you gain so much credibility that you could know that this person it will eventually you're on the verge of experiencing this problem firsthand. You just don't even know it yet. I mean, it's just like identifying that customer. And this is where that bottoms up comes from. You need to, you know it so well that you demonstrate and you understand the size of the market. So like then from an investor standpoint, when you're an investor is hearing this, so like, yeah, this person knows what they're doing. They are going to be able to take this money and they are going to be able to identify who needs this and they're going to put that money to work. They understand this market as opposed to the wrong answer is the entire world is my market. I mean, like that does not fly. It will not fly, and that is something to say if you wanted to lose credibility with the judges that you're talking to. We want you to focus small, and then you can expand. And like, if you listen to a lot of different stories and success stories, Airbnb, for example, like that total addressable market has expanded so much. I mean, they thought initially it was going to be couch surfing, and it is now expanded to be such a huge, huge TAM that like now it's we just went to when we've gone on the last couple of vacations, it was cheaper for us to book a hotel on Airbnb's platform than it was to go to book on the Marriott's platform. So like that total addressable market continues to expand to be larger and larger and larger. And at first they ran into trouble raising money because everyone thought the market was too small. Nobody thought that anybody would be willing to share a couch or to share a room. Um, but focus really, really small, and then you can expand. Going back to the Uber, that was started with Uber Black, and now they have every flavor of Uber that you can even think of, and that's not even getting into Uber Eats and Uber Freight, and I mean they have really, really done just a crazy job of expanding the market that they serve. How are you delighting customers? So, do you have customers right now? If so, what are they saying? Do you have reviews on Google, on um, gosh, I just blanked out on whatever the platform is. If you don't, if you just have a splash page and you're still working on your minimal viable product, do you have a wait list that you're sending updates to? How is that wait list expanding? What are some testimonials that people say? And I'm not saying that you need to read those testimonials during your pitch. Can be something that can be just animated on your screen about the X amount of number 5-star reviews. We've got this person said this and this person said that. People can read much, much faster than you can talk. So but how are you delighting those customers? That is all validation that you are moving forward and you are moving ahead. So think about that as well. I mean, it's without execution, you have nothing. So, execution is a big, big thing. What is your why? And we touched on the answers now. That was their why. So, like, this is just something that is very much part of their performance, but this is just really, really authentic. And um, when you speak from the heart, that is just that is something that can't be faked. And I think the one thing that's interesting with Zoom is that, like, you're kind of protected. You're just sitting in front of a camera, and it's much easier to have your script and read that script. But I will tell you, it is not. You have to practice, and it has to be really, really authentic. And if it sounds like you're reading, it takes away from some of that authenticity. So, like, what is your why? And when you're able to speak from the heart and you're the one that's going to solve that problem, I mean, that commitment level just goes the extra distance that you need to go to.
And
Gary.
Tim, I think that ties back into what we were talking about before with the Answers Now perform his presentation and what I said about if you have personal experience, then if it's something that's fixing something that you experienced, then you're more passionate about it probably than most other people, unless they've gone through it as well. So that could be what is driving you. And there's nothing wrong with saying that you're driven to resolve this for other people because you struggled with it for so long, whatever. But it just fits in there as well.
Yeah, and the other aspect of that too is just like this journey is so hard, and you are in the beginning stage. This is the very beginning of where you are. And there's so many ups and there's so many downs. And unless you have a really, really strong why, the first time that you have a bad day, the first time that you're kicked in the gut, your why is what's going to get you out of bed in the morning. So you really, really need to understand what that why is. And that's why I also tell everyone, celebrate every win, no matter how small you think it is. Celebrate that win because you just don't know when the winds are going to change. And I still make it a point and remind myself every day, like, wow. Yeah, well, recently we're getting ready to put on a couple major events for Innovate Hanford Roads. And we put out an email asking for volunteers that wanted to be part of some subcommittees that we're putting together to help us do these events. And it was just like we had to celebrate the win that, like, there were several people on this list. I have no idea who they are. And I was like, man, that means they're subscribed to our email list. They're reading the emails. They took the time to fill out this form. And they wrote these beautiful comments about how they want to be involved. And they were so excited about what's going on in this region. You have to celebrate these wins no matter how small. I mean, it's just like those are all things to celebrate. The first time that you get a customer that is not part of your inner circle, that's a close friend or a family member, you're the first, all those things, celebrate those. And like that is so important. How are you going to make this a reality? And it's just like having that, like we have people that be like, I want to, establish the first Michelin star restaurant in Hampton Roads. And it's just like, well, no one's going to give you the money to open up a brick and mortar that's going to do this. But how are you going to make this a reality? If you have a hot dog cart, and that hot dog cart, you sell out every single day within hours. And then that turns into a food truck. And then that food truck then goes into two, and then you expand into a brick and mortar store. And then whatever that journey is, this is how you're going to make this a reality. Think about that stuff, and like that passion will come out. Not to mention, like, you have the skin in the game and you're going to be putting forth the effort. There's nothing that just will turn me off faster than when someone's like, I have this amazing idea. I'm not willing to put any time into it or any money of my own into it. But I'll take 2 million of your dollars in order to prove that I have this brilliant idea. It just doesn't work that way. So, like, what are you doing today in order to make this a reality? And again, going back to Answers Now, they were going to make that a reality. There was just no question. and I touched on this before, investors invest in people more so the idea. So like with that, we don't do like I hear so many different ideas throughout the course of a day that I'm like, even if I heard the most amazing idea, I don't have the passion to make that idea a reality. And so we don't do like, yeah, I'll finish this point about investing in I invest in the people because I know they're going to make that a reality. Um, we don't do NDAs or anything like that because this is just a 3 minute pitch. You're not getting into any secret sauce. You're not getting into any like IP related material. Those are for later meetings on down the road. Yeah. So it's just that we don't do it for that. No one is going to steal your idea because you have the passion. You're the one that's going to make this, that's going to solve this problem and then run with it from that standpoint. Um,
Can I add something, Tim, as
yeah.
well? I think that you can't fake passion. So if you are passionate about this idea, the more that you practice so that the information that you want to share is readily accessible to you, then that's most likely going to make you or allow you to let your passion show about this idea. In other words, you won't be afraid you're going to make a mistake. You won't be trying not to lose. If you do the practice that we're suggesting and set this up, you'll be able to be freer with your passion, if you will, and we'll be able to see the why. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's
And
just,
I was gonna say, I'm also reminded of the story of, do you know how IKEA got started? Do you know the Ingmar Ingvar Kamprad? It's his initials. It's IKEA. EA stands for something about their family farm or something. But he started at age 5 selling matches in his town because he could buy matches in bulk and then he could sell them individually to people and they would buy them. And so here's a kid that really liked to, he had a passion for selling things and being efficient about it. And it turns into this furniture store. So I think people could see his passion to go around the town in Sweden and sell individual sticks of matches. And they bought them from him, probably because he was so passionate about it. So it's that kind of stuff that we can see it, and I don't think you can fake it because I know Tim and I have watched these things, and we'll get off the pitch and we'll talk about things, and we'll go, "There's something about that person that you could smell it, like you could feel it through the screen," and that's what Tim is talking about your why is
yeah.
that that's the thing that we want to be able to see. We can't quantify it, but we qualitatively we know that it's the it, if you will.
Yeah, and I think that what I was trying to say, and I couldn't get my thoughts together. It was just like from the investing in the person versus the idea. Like I'm going to invest on someone who I know is going to be able to execute to get the job done. Yeah, someone can get up here and say, "Hey, I'm going to be the person that puts data centers into orbit." You know, and it's just you don't have to worry about cooling and yada yada. But it's just like, how in the world are you going to execute on that? There's like very few people that could possibly do that. So like yeah, it's just really, really quickly you're able to make that determination. Are they able to execute on that idea or not? And so that's another aspect of investing in the person versus the idea. But really, what we're trying to say is like validated ideas are worth much, much more than an idea. An idea is not worth anything at all, but a validated idea, that's worth everything. And we're here today to validate those ideas. We covered a lot of stuff. So if there's time at the end of your pitch and you have 10 seconds, or if you're thinking about that closing that you want to put in there, and think about what are those basic needs are that you have, and or that is a popular question amongst the judges from a Q&A standpoint, what do you need? And so we bring this up, one, because this is your opportunity to share. We have the secondary audience that is going to be listening, but at the same time, leverage your vulnerability and use that as a strength, not as a weakness. So many founders think that they need to be the ones that have the answers to everything, that they don't need any help. They have it all figured out. And it's just like that. It couldn't be further from the truth. What are your needs? Hey, I'm a solo founder right now. I'm looking for a co-founder. Or my co-founder and I were technical in nature. We don't know anything about the business side, the sales side, whatever the case is. But share that. What is it that you need? How can we help you? The entrepreneurial community is so I love this about the entrepreneurial community is that we're here to help you. And if the thing is that if you don't share how we can help you, then we can't help you because we don't know how we can. So leverage that. And it's just
Tim,
even,
but Tim,
yeah,
isn't it tell people that I'm weak if I need things and I tell them that I need it? Isn't that a bad thing?
well, I can tell you one thing, when someone asks for help, it's very hard to say no.
I'm being facetious. I know.
I know.
It's crazy. We don't want to say what we need because we're afraid someone's going to think less of us.
Well,
But
and
look,
because at the
people
same
won't say
time,
what they need.
we tell founders that they have to be coachable. And so like it's like so this
And
is the
vulnerable.
it's just
Bold,
it's really
sin boldly, make a big mistake, but do it before you go to the thing so we can help you fix it.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All right. And like I said, it's a popular question in terms of some people have pitched really well and they're like, what do you need? Why are you here? How can we help you? So just think about it from that standpoint. Just to wrap the business side up on the with the secret sauce, in terms of what we're pushing people for. When you don't talk about the problem, then we don't hear a need. And if you don't talk about your solution, then what I'm hearing is that there is no product. And if you don't talk about your market, then there's no way for your company to grow. And then this is getting ahead to the championship side, but like no traction, that's telling me that you don't have any customers. And again, looking further ahead, with no model, there's no way to make money. With no team, there's no execution. So it's all working towards that flywheel that we're talking about. You need to show these things so that this is how your business moves forward. And it's just a couple of bullet points to illustrate that. And then the last thing is if there's no performance, then there's not going to be any memory of what it is that you did. And this is where Gary's going to jump in and he's going to help with that performance side so that there is a memory. So I'm going to turn it over to Gary and learn a couple things myself. Gary, you there? You look like you might be frozen. I will text him quickly, or else.
He picked the best pose to be frozen in. He
Right?
looks so contemplative.
All right. Well, while he's coming back, practice, practice, practice. I mean, it's just so. I'll let Gary. He has his line that he will share about how you get to Carnegie Hall, but you have to every opportunity that you have got to practice. If you have every person that you talk to, hey, do you have 3 minutes? Let me run something past you. We can tell right away when that time is not put into the practice. And it's just like the day that you are doing the pitch, that is not the time to call an audible and add something new. Like you have your thoughts written down, you're practicing that, you're not necessarily memorizing it. It just you know where you need to be, but practice, practice, practice. Record yourself on the phone. It's so hard. I know. I don't like watching my anything that I've done as a playback. It's painful, but you have to do it. Do it. And then when you listen to it back, transcribe it. And when you transcribe it, highlight all of the filler words that you have, all of the different ums and uhs and and all that takes time. And time is not your friend. Using too much time is not your friend when it comes to this. Gary, you back?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. Sorry.
I was just talking about practice, 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 and that you have to record yourself, but I left Carnegie Hall for you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have a bunch of stories. So I'm going to restart my computer. It's just restarting. By the way, this is the joys of living in the mountains in the winter. I'll join back on the on my screen in a sec. But anyway, so yeah, so one of the things I wanted to say is the Carnegie Hall. Yes, how do you get there? Is practice, practice, practice. But one thing to think about too is I had a friend that was, and I often tell this story. I have a friend who actually went to William and Mary and he was a speechwriter for a senator, and he would always say that what you have to do is be willing to kill your darlings. And he would say that he would write these great speeches to the senator he worked for, and when he did that, it was fine, but he had some really great stuff in there. And he had to be willing to say, you know what, this really isn't going to do what we need it to do, and be willing to cut it. I know we're going to get there in a second. In the slides is about only putting in relevant things that. Sorry, I'm trying to get
Well,
logged back
one
on.
thing that you talk about though, Gary, is proper practice, practicing the right
Right,
way.
right. Yeah, well, if you practice, yeah, because practice, people think practice makes perfect, and it doesn't. Perfect practice makes perfect. And if you don't practice the piano scales correctly, then you're gonna play them wrong every time. So if you don't practice this presentation, this pitch correctly, then you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna do it wrong. So my advice for that, one thing in this practice piece is to set yourself up. I think anybody can use Zoom or Google Meets or whatever. Set yourself up a meeting for yourself. Do your pitch to the meeting, record it, and then go back and watch it. And this is a piece where people won't do that because it's terrifying to actually watch yourself. Yet I'm a firm believer in my work that if you don't know what other people see and hear, then you're doing yourself a great disservice. And so important for you to know that before as you're practicing. So I encourage you to video record yourself, and then I'm joining back on my screen, Tim.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. I'll hang up from here.
In progress.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Did anybody have a comment on that, or are we good with that? Just to practice, like make a record yourself, then go watch it. Listen to it. It's accurate in what you sound like. It doesn't sound like you to you because your voice echoes in your head, and you don't actually hear it through your ears. But when you go and listen to yourself, you'll hear what everybody else hears, and it's very accurate, and you'll see what everybody else sees, which is also very important for you. So I encourage you to do that.
And another aspect too, before we forget, Gary, is I get it. Not, some people they use Teams. Some people, they are very familiar with Zoom. We are going to use Zoom for this.
Yeah.
Part of this is practicing sharing your screen, making sure that everything is, you know how to navigate. It just, you're going to be really nervous. It's just the nature of the beast. But like this, the time to figure out how to share your screen and share your slides and advance everything is not the night of. So like take the time to practice that stuff as well.
Yeah. The next thing I would say is that you don't want to start with a question. Sometimes we think when we do a presentation that we can start with a question. How many of you have ever flown in a helicopter and you're looking for hands to go up? Or you're not, it takes too much time in this situation where you have limited time. So don't start with a question. You could start with things like, yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, Tim, but you could start with things like statistics, a startling fact. You could do a consider or imagine yourself in this situation, which I think is probably what the Answers Now guy did, was imagine yourself in Walmart. Your kid has autism and has a meltdown. What do you do? Well, now everyone is sucked into, oh my gosh, that's what I meant by having a feeling of anxiety or whatever feeling you want to create it here as your attention getter. That's the important part, right? The next thing is don't start with your name because we're already going to get announced. I'm the announcer. I say, please welcome Graham Henshaw, right? I'm not gonna, they already know what your name is. It's you'll have a background that has your name on it. The judges all know what your name is. Don't start with your name. And besides that, they don't care yet because they don't have a reason to care. But you could say your name later, a little bit later. Again, I'm so and so and blah, blah, blah. But don't do that as part of your intro. When you go through your pitch, delete anything that's irrelevant to your story. This is a part about killing your darlings. If even if you think it's great, it may not be helpful. And Tim spoke earlier about making sure that it's easy enough to understand. And I'm going to give you 4 words that I found really, really helpful when I was studying. I was studying in a grad class, and we were talking about explanatory skills. And so here's 4 words for you, and then I'll explain them. But clarifying, explanations, anticipate, confusion. So clarifying explanations, anticipate confusion. That means that when you're creating an explanation about this thing which you're doing, and you want it, and you're creating a clear explanation, you have to um, anticipate where people might get confused, and then adjust your explanation so that it's not confusing. And this goes back a little bit to what Tim said earlier as well. And I always, when I worked in IT, my mother never understood what I did. And I always said it has to pass the mom test. If my mom didn't get it, it wasn't a good explanation. And so sometimes we have really technical ideas that we want to pitch. We have things that other people aren't familiar with. They don't have that problem. Make sure that it passes the mom test. Make sure that it anticipates where they might get confused, and then adjust your explanation accordingly. Have I explained that clearly enough? Just a nod is good. Awesome.
Yeah,
As Tim has
real
said
quick,
before,
if I can
yeah,
add to that, Gary, this is what I mean by anytime you have 3 minutes and you run into someone and you practice with that, anytime they ask a question, I want you to write that down. And then when 2 or 3 people ask the exact same question, that identifies something in your pitch that does not make sense. We have to address that in the pitch. And
yeah,
so then, because once someone gets confused, they're going to stop listening because they're going to try to figure out, I don't understand what the answer to that is. They're going to stop listening to you. And so then when you address that question to ensure that there's clarification there, now you're over the 3 minute time period, and now we have to delete anything that's irrelevant to the story. So now we're like pulling a sentence out here so that we can put a sentence in here, and like we have to shuffle everything around to make sure that everything is right. But part of that practice though is taking a log, identifying what those questions are, what people are getting confused about. Because if multiple people get confused, then that's identifying a trend.
You could have somebody why if you record your pitch and you've looked at it 16 times and you're good with it, ask someone else to look at it with you. Do it again, record it, let them watch it with you, and then ask them where was there any place you got confused in here? Is there anything that was irrelevant that I didn't need to share? And let them tell you, yeah, I don't really don't think you need to tell me twice about or three times about this. You're beating a dead horse, so you don't need to do that. So that would be to fit in with what Tim is talking about. As Tim said, it's a story and a performance. So it's got to have some storytelling aspects to it, and it will if you're passionate about it and you tell it in that way, and it's a performance. It's not necessarily a presentation. It's a full body thing. And with that, I know that last time we had some people, I recommended this and a couple of them did it. They stood up when they did their pitch. They raised they're on a laptop or whatever. They have a standing desk, whatever. They put their laptop in a bookcase and they stood up because they could move and they felt more comfortable. They felt more like, oh, this is a big deal. And I'm not just sitting at my desk, which I do all the time. I also suggest that you wear something that makes you feel special. Like I'm getting dressed up for my pitch. It's okay. We're not saying you have to, if you're a guy, we're not saying you need to wear a tie or suits or any of that kind of stuff. Just whatever makes you feel a bit more special than normal because this is a performance and you want it to be stage worthy. And so I encourage you to do that. If it, to wear what you'd like to be seen in, it's going to give you some credibility as well. This one for every line, slide or line that you add, you want to ask yourself, does it enhance the story or does it detract from the story? And again, that's being willing to kill your darlings and making sure that everything in here is really, 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 really good stuff. And the reason is because you only have 3 minutes and we can't tell you everything. You can't tell us everything about this great idea, just enough for us to have an interest and say, I'd like to hear more about that. And maybe that means move you on to the next thing, or maybe it means that someone in the audience was intrigued by your idea and they want to reach out to you. So those are some ideas about how you might approach this from a performance perspective. Anything else? I don't, I think
Let me,
I've shared the things that I wanted to share. So,
yeah, and then you and I can tag team on the Q&A portion because this is really,
yeah.
really important. So after your pitch, there will be a Q&A. So we'll have three judges. After you're done, each judge will then ask their question. Judge one will ask their question, judge two will ask their question, and judge three will ask their question. After all three questions are asked, then you have 2 minutes to answer all three questions. And so that is very much by design as why we do that. If we did ask a question, answer a question, ask a question, answer a question, it would take forever. And we're teaching the founders to answer succinctly. Like this is when you think about like tennis, we want you to volley back and forth. They ask a question, you answer the question. You ask the question, you answer the question. And answer, it's moving ahead. And it teaches you to answer the question so many times, like it will be just like the simplest question. How many customers do you have? Do you have any customers? And it's just like it could be a one word answer, but then there's this big, long, roundabout answer that doesn't even answer the question. And then like you just completely lost the judges. And again, going back to what I was saying about either you're building credibility or taking away, like you have to answer the question. That is what we're teaching you to do with this answer all at once within 2 minutes.
Yeah, and if I could jump in on this one,
Yep.
ask, like, find out, like, sit down with yourself, in like 10 minutes of nothing, no radio, no music, no nothing, no distractions, just you and yourself, and say, what questions might a judge ask me about this that would scare me to death? And let's play hardball and let's find answers to those really spooky questions. Because then you can go into this without worrying. You're like, oh, I've already pretty much mapped out any kind of spooky questions that I could even think of that they might ask me. So I'm good. So identify what questions scare you that somebody might ask. I know I worked with at one time with some men that were in a halfway house that were coming out of prison and going back into society. And the thing that scared them the most was if somebody was going to ask them when they went for a job interview if and why they had been incarcerated. And so we really spent time thinking about that. And then how are you going to answer it? And their way of answering it was to acknowledge that they had been incarcerated, and this is what they learned from that experience, and this is how they plan to move forward, instead of dwelling on the icky part of the question. But that was the question that stumped them every time was,
Yeah.
have you been incarcerated and why? And
And
they
it's
just
so
switch it.
another question could be like if you have a highly tech type of company, and you're not a tech founder, and if the question is asked, this is highly technical in nature, what do how are you going to do this? Like that could potentially scare somebody. But if you put some thought into it and you're like, this is exactly the type of person that I'm looking for, they have to have these particular skill sets, like, and you can answer that in a way they're like, okay, cool. It makes sense to me. Satisfied the answer.
Yeah, if number stuff isn't your deal, I mean, I've never heard a judge ask this at a pitch contest, but they could. But I have a client that is trying to buy some properties, and we asked the owner of the properties what their EBITDA is, and they didn't even know what EBITDA was.
And we'll
So
make sure that, we'll make sure that
so there's scary stuff like that. If you don't do numbers, then like as we practice, let us know that they're not your strength. And Tim knows more about that and can help you with here's how you answer these kinds of questions if they might ask them. I've never heard anybody ask that stuff, but
yeah.
the point is just to think about things that you might be scared of answering.
And we will have a founder, or I'm sorry, we will have someone in the judge's deliberation room to make sure that no funny business like that would happen. Like, no, it's like you're not gonna, you can't take dock points off this because they didn't know that. That's not part of the rubric. So don't worry about that. You're covered from that standpoint. Um, Answer your way in. And what do I mean by that? We have had people that they answered the questions so well that they, like they were outside of the top three, but the way that they performed the answers, they answered themselves into the top three. And like this is part of it. This is not scripted. This is all like natural. This is where your passion comes out and you can't hide it. It just naturally flows. And you're like, okay, I totally get it. That makes, yeah, like they've answered their way in. At the same time, people have answered their way out of it as well. So again, like not answering the question, going on way too long. Um, and like they're just like, man, they just totally talked themselves out of this one. Like I've lost confidence in this founder. They're just not ready. And then Gary, I'll let you.
Yeah, this is
You
the one that I can't remind you since I'm the MC. I can't remind you after the first person's gone. But a lot of people will answer the three questions very well, and they still have a minute left. And we all sit there and look at each other. And Tim is the timer, and he's not going to call unless it's obvious nothing else is going to happen. So if you have extra time, I would plan that you have some notes next to you of things that are beyond your pitch that you could insert if you had an extra 15, 20, 30 seconds.
Or if you genuinely forgot something, like,
Or you
hey,
forgot something. Yep.
I forgot to mention that, like, hey, yeah, we just brought on our first customer, 2 weeks ago or so, whatever the case is. But like, use that time. like this is that's your 2 minutes, and use it to your advantage.
Here's another thing to be cautious of, and I don't think we've ever talked about it before. If you're pitcher number 8, you've watched 7 pitches before you, and you can psych yourself out and go, "Oh, number 2, that was really good. That was a really good idea. I should probably incorporate that." No, 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 no. It's like ice skaters that if you didn't plan that in your routine, don't put it in at the last minute. It's probably not going to end well. So that's why you want to practice a lot before and be really comfortable with it and go with your plan. But this happens, I think this happens to some people. They see something they really liked and they're coming later on and they want to change it on the fly. And I would warn you against that.
Yeah, it
I
has
mean, like,
happened so many times.
but
Like,
that might be the place in this Q&A when you answer correctly and you answer well and you have extra time that you might stick something in that you saw previously that you thought might be helpful. Okay, but don't alter your pitch.
I mean, there's times that like, so we will offer this. The micro pitch is in 2 weeks. If you want to send a draft, if you want to send a recording, whatever, you feel free to send it to us. We'll give you feedback. Please keep in mind, me more so than Gary now. I'm a super busy guy and I work, don't send it to me the night before and expect to get some feedback. You're like, I've got to work it into my schedule. But there are times that people will send us their pitch. We'll provide feedback. They're good to go. And then they pitch. And then Gary and I are like, where did this come from? This was totally not what was pitched. Like, this is hard right turn from what was talked about. So, and then they don't do well because they tried something new.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
What questions do you have for us, Ryan?
Yeah, given how Gary kind of really emphasized the story and storytelling and good to meet you virtually, Gary, go tribe. Um, where is the good balance? Because I know Tim, you mentioned up kind of the bottoms up TAM. What's the good balance between just kind of selling problem solution, market viability, and then throwing in some, if you say you've done a TAM, SAM, SOM analysis, or if you've done an ICP analysis already, what's kind of the good balance there?
Well, the big thing is to make sure that one, that you demonstrate that you have put the thought into
Hmm.
identifying that. And depending on wherever you are, you have an MVP or you're open, that you're alpha testing or whatever the case is right now, you're in beta. These are the people that we're targeting first, and just having a plan identified in terms of like these are the specific people that we're looking for. And then we'll continue to expand and onboard or whatever the case is in the most logical sense. But just making sure, does that answer the question? Am I getting it?
Hmm.
Because we just want to make sure that you're just not going to open up the floodgates and then all of a sudden, like, you're
Yeah.
not able to execute. It just needs to be super thoughtful, just in the sense of
Okay.
like, um,
And then earlier on, I know you mentioned product. I know you said in the introduction call 2 weeks ago, services were all right, but say it is more of a brick and mortar service, so you don't have customers yet because you're still kind of figuring out how to get, location and build that. Would you say that's still a fit for this?
yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
just understanding and knowing what that customer profile looks like.
Okay. Thanks.
We do put a lot of time into the judges. We make sure that they understand what this is all about. They do have that rubric. They're supposed to stay within that rubric. Sometimes they get a little excited and they want to ask something a little bit further ahead. Not EBITDA stuff generally,
Yeah.
um, but that just
Sorry
means
to
that they're,
terrify everybody about EBITDA, but I just thought it was shocking
they're
that I was like,
they're picking
wow,
up what you're
whoa,
putting
okay.
down. Um, one last thought though, before Gary starts putting pressure on people to want to practice. If you run out of time in your Q&A, it's a great, like it's a pretty cool tactic, pretty smart tactic. You'd be like, you run out of time, and then you slide into the judge's DMs, or you send them an email or connect with them on LinkedIn or whatever the case is. Say, hey, you asked this question. I didn't have time to answer. love to explain it to you more over a cup of coffee, or here's the answer to your question, and start a dialogue that way. I mean, what the world is. Take advantage of the opportunities you're given.
Will there be a guest list, a kind of attendee list sent out afterwards, or
We'll make sure that the judges, I'll send out instructions a couple days beforehand, and that will be your picture number. It will be have your background, your virtual background, and we'll have the judges listed with their LinkedIn profiles so you can check them out and be
okay.
connected from that standpoint. Um, and then generally anyone that, well, the attendees, if they want to be connected, then we'll connect them that way. This is super fun.
I
Have
think it's
fun
time
with
to
this.
hear some of these. Anybody willing to give us a run? Graham has unmuted.
And that's our contact information if you want to send us your pitch, just so you have it.